here on the Field of 68 After Dark. After tonight, the next time that you are going to see us is going to be after actual college basketball games have been played. And honestly, I cannot wait because all of this preseason stuff, all these predictions,
incorrect.
We haven't announced that yet, my good sir. So until you want to announce it, if you want to make that official announcement now, then go ahead. Until then, next time you see us is going to be after actual college basketball games are played. That guy that you just heard cut me off is Jeff Goodman, Stadium Insider. We have Robbie Hummel. The last time that you're probably going to see him on the Field of 68 for a while. He's got what do you have? 4 rounds of golf that you got to play?
No, I'm gonna quit. That's what I'm going to do.
And we got my partner in crime over on the DTF podcast, Terrence Oglesby. Everybody knows him by now. This is our All-American show. We're going to be breaking down our each specific All-American teams. We have interviews with Jaime Jaquez coming up. We have an interview with Armando Bacot coming up. We're going to be talking about how each of us view and how we put together our All-American teams. But before we get into all of that, we named the Almanac this year, the Year of the Big. But the Almanac, by the way, you can go buy it. It's in the link in the description below. 1999. We spoke to every single Division I head coach to put this thing together. It was 600,000 words, 814 pages. Jeff printed it out. It's literally as big as his head when you stand all the papers up next to each other. But we called it the Year of the Big because all of these big men came back. We have all of these great 7-footers, all these great centers in college basketball. And Robbie, I haven't heard you talk about this yet. So I'm kind of curious. Is this influx of big men that are still here because NIL is more profitable than what they can get playing professional basketball, right? Is that a good thing for college basketball? Is that a bad thing for college basketball? Is it setting the sport back? How do you feel about all of this talent at the 5 spot coming back into the sport?
I don't care if it's talent at the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If talent is coming back, it is good for college basketball. I think you're going to see guys throw the ball inside, and that's fine. I mean, as long as there's good dudes that are playing at a high level, who cares? I think it's great for the game. I think NIL has allowed us to bring back guys that never would have come back had it not been for that. And I think it's great for college basketball. I don't see any way that you would say this is bad for the game, having good players come back.
You're talking to a guy, a Big Ten guy too. So who loves the big man? That whole conference loves the big man. Now, recognizable faces for college basketball is a good thing. I think that's pretty obvious in saying so. Sheboy coming back, Drew Timme coming back, all these big men. It adds what people have been clamoring for. Like I've heard so many people say, I don't recognize the guys year to year. Well, now you're starting to get that back with NIL back in the picture. And I think it's good for college basketball overall. The fact that it's big men, I think changes the game a little bit. And basketball is always evolving. So I think in time, you're going to see that change as well. It's just a matter of what happens at the level above, because I think that dictates everything that you're going to see at the collegiate level.
Yeah, I think it's the recognizability, right, Jeff? We have name brand players in college basketball for the first time that aren't freshmen for the first time in a long time, whether it's reigning National Player of the Year Oscar Tshiebwe, whether it's someone like Hunter Dickinson, who plays for one of the biggest brands in the sport at Michigan, whether it's Armando Bacot and all of the guys that came back at North Carolina. There are players that people in the general public, and not just college basketball nerds like us, that the general public recognize. And that's big. You need that in college basketball.
You do. The only thing is it's at a position which isn't the most riveting position for people to watch. That's the only thing I would say is like, yes, it's great. All these guys are back, but there's a reason that they're back. They're plotting bigs for the most part, some of which have gotten better already, a la Hunter Dickinson. It's stepping out a little bit, some of which hope to get better. Trace Jackson Davis being one of those, Oscar Tshiebwe of stepping out a little bit. But yeah, I mean, listen, it's great we have them back. I'd rather have some of those other like really talented wings come back, but we're never going to see that.
Is the game worse, Jeff, because those guys came back? Are you? Oh man, like it's so bad that Hunter Dickinson came back.
Hell no. The game's not worse until maybe the NCAA tournament when those guys have a lot of trouble guarding some of those.
But does that make the game worse?
How is that worse?
Yeah. I think it creates chances for upsets.
No, I'm not saying it's worse.
Your boy Hunter Dickinson, who you've just been just ragging on nonstop. He made it to the Sweet 16 last year. Not a bad run, right?
He did
as an 11 seed. But I thought big men couldn't win.
The bigger question is, again, do those guys give you a chance to go deep in the NCAA tournament, Or again, look at Kofi Coburn the last couple of years, look at Oscar last year, the matchups.
Okay, but you could flip that. Look at Armando Bacot. He's in the national championship game. Oh, true. But he has good guards. I agree. But you can't blame Sheboy for Kentucky's loss. Maybe their guard should have played better in that game. Didn't he have? He had a pretty good game.
He was great. He was great offensively.
Goodman could do whatever he wants, man.
I'm playing devil's advocate. That's all I'm doing.
You're making dumb arguments. What you're doing.
I'm just arguing with you.
That's normally my job, man. Come on, stop stepping on my toes over here. All right. So do you think this trend, T.O., is something that is going to change? Or is this kind of here to stay that the big men are going to rule college basketball?
As long as they're not the most important people in the NBA, I think it's going to continue that way. You look at the NBA, it's a copycat league. What was it, 15 years ago, Robbie? You still had positions. Now the Warriors went to positionless basketball, and they've completely flipped the game on its head. So what becomes more valuable in the NBA draft? It's these big, skilled wings. No longer the bigs. Like if you look at Hunter Dickinson, if he was being drafted in 1998, the dude's going what, top 10, top 12, skilled lefty big that can really pass the ball out of the post. I mean, he's getting better at that. That's kind of where that happens. Now, once Steph Curry and all those guys get out of the way and they finally retire, I feel like Steph could play until he's 45 because he just stays in such great shape. But like, as soon as something changes, maybe Joel Embiid takes over the game, maybe a center takes over the game that we haven't heard of yet, it's going to continue to be the same thing because they just don't hold that same level of value.
I think that's a great point by T.O. right there. And I think that if you think about Shaquille O'Neal, let's say there's a Shaq out there, going to be here in 2037, and you're going to have to guard him. It's going, but like right now, all the bigs, there's not great back to the basket players. There's a couple, but there's nobody like Shaquille O'Neal or Hakeem Olajuwon that's just going to put you in the basket. And
Robbie, let me ask you
this.
Let me flip that on you because I'm torn on this. Is it because the Warriors went small ball that everything changed, or is it because small ball was the best way to capitalize on the way to beat basketball in the sense that you want to take threes and layups and free throws and the way to be the most efficient team?
Yeah, analytics, I think, played a big role in that, right? I feel like I think analytics really changed that narrative that, okay, we need to have a 7-footer. But also on top of that, I think teams play to their personnel. And I think about even when I was in the NBA, I think the best back to the basket scorer at that point was Zach Randolph. And he's a really good pro, but he wasn't Shaq. He wasn't Hakeem. And with Shaq, think about if the Warriors came out and were like, you know what? We're going to guard him with Draymond Green. That would be insane. Draymond's 6'5", 6'6", probably. I think he's around that size, but still, you're just not going to do that. So I think that's changed. And I do think that if a guy comes along that is physically dominant and a dominant scorer in the post, the teams will have to adjust, not abandon the way they play now, but you'll have to have bigger players on the floor to guard a guy like that.
Yeah. And Jeff, I think part of it is the way to win a championship in the two sports is different, right? In the NBA, you have to win a 7-game series. You have to be the better team. It's very rare that you see upsets in the NBA. The better team normally wins. Whereas in college basketball, you just got to get it one time. So you might have a guy like a Kofi Coburn, who is a great regular season player, but you put him against Loyola Chicago, or you put him against whoever they got picked off by last season, and he can get exposed, and then you lose, and your season's done.
They're not used to playing against St. Peter's. They haven't played those smaller teams probably in a while as well.
Yep.
Especially when you play some of those low major teams and you go up against an Oscar Sheboy. Well, he has obvious deficiencies guarding out on the perimeter. What happens? They use his guy as the screener every time, and he has a hard time getting out there. Whenever you play some of these smaller low major teams like a St. Peter's, they have a bunch of different guys who can make shots. And if he can't cover the ball screens, they're hitting a bunch of they're getting easy ones. And if you're hitting shots for one night, you can win. Kentucky beats them 9 out of 10 times. But because the tournament's the way it is, and the way that you can take advantage of some of these bigger players, a la Hunter Dickinson, a la even Drew Timme for that matter, the way you can take advantage of some of these guys, it leaves you susceptible for one game.
Yep. In fairness to Illinois, they lost to Houston, who had Josh Carlson.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
But the Kentucky one, yes, absolutely.
I was talking more about Illinois 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's what I was referencing was the when they were the one seed in the Loyola Chicago matchup. All right. So there's a glut of great bigs in college basketball. So I want to ask you guys this. One, let's start with this. Who is the best big guy for you? I know Oscar Tshiebwe is the reigning national player of the year, but if you had to pick one of the great big men in college basketball, is he going to be the first guy that you pick? Goodman, I'm going to you first on this one.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to be, right? I mean, if you think about
I'm not saying to pick to be player of the year. I'm saying if you're building a team right now, is Oscar Tshiebwe the first guy that you pick?
Yes, he is, because of how hard he plays. That's the other part for me, is he plays so damn hard. He rebounds so well outside of his area too. Like he's relentless. And I think in part also we're going to see a little bit of a different Oscar this year. Not a guy who's going to go out and jack threes, but I think he's going to be allowed to do a little bit more from 15, 18 feet. And he is a relentless worker on and off the court. So I just think he proved it last year. He was so damn good. And I love the fact that the other thing is, like, you don't have to really run much for Oscar. He's just going to go get the damn ball. Like, you do run it for him, obviously, because again, he can be a matchup nightmare down there. Nobody can really stop him. But ultimately you don't have to. He can just go get it. And again, he's got that kind of intimidating factor now.
Yeah, I got a hot take for you guys, Robbie and T.O. Either one of you guys can weigh in on this. I would not take Oscar probably in like the top 5 or 6 picks in college basketball this year for the simple argument of positional scarcity, right? There's not a lot of good guards. There's a ton of good big guys. So if you're doing a draft, why would you take Oscar Tshiebwe number one?
We did this. Hummel and I did this, and we didn't take him. I think I took him with like the 3rd or 4th pick.
Yeah, we both drafted point guards with our first 2 picks because there was 2 that we wanted to take. So
I agree with you. There's a ton of bigs. I'm saying, if you're going to ask me like who I'm going to start my team with, what big do I want? Like, am I taking Marcus Sasser over Oscar? Only because, like you said, there's a ton of depth at that big man spot. But ultimately, Oscar Tshiebwe is still going to be the guy that you're saying to yourself, like, I trust him. I know what I'm going to get out of Oscar every single night. I don't know that out of even Marcus Sasser.
Yep. Robbie, T.O., you guys agree? Is he the best big guy in college basketball this year?
Go ahead,
I think if you're picking like one guy to start your team with, I would flirt with taking Trace Jackson Davis, because I think like he can guard 5s on the other end, but at the same time, he's quick enough and can face up, and he's quick enough to get past some of those bigger 5s, and he can also guard some different spots. I would flirt with that, but I think because he plays so hard, he eats rebounds. Like, the dude is he's in every play. Even if he doesn't get it, he's tipping it somewhere. He just plays so hard. He's just such a tone setter. I think that's a big time. But if I'm looking at a team, I'm thinking about potentially thinking Trace Jackson Davis, just simply because of his mismatch against some of these other great bigs, right?
I will go Drew Timme. This dude's 90-7. 90-7 in his college career is his record in 3 years. Averaged 18-6, 3 assists. I think he makes life for your guards so much easier with his ability to short roll and then go make plays, spray it out. His footwork is amazing. He can score in the post. I get that he's not a great shooter, but I just think he's a winner. So not that your guys' picks are wrong.
In the SEC, if he was playing in the SEC, his name would be Tolu Smith.
Oh my God, no, it's not.
I'm just saying, like,
I do not agree with that.
Like, I don't think what he's doing. I don't think what he's doing.
You know what he's averaging in NCAA tournament games?
Tell me.
He is averaging 22, 8, and 3. And that is good in 9 NCAA tournament games.
Yeah.
That's at the highest level of sport. Now, they've been 1 seed, so you do have a 16 thrown in there. But dude, this guy's playing the Final Four. They've been there. They've won so much. Tolu Smith, that is offensive to Drew Timme.
I can't believe
I just couldn't help it. I had that one loaded. I just had that one loaded. I couldn't help it. I had to use it.
This dude's a 2-time consensus All-American.
Here's the thing, like, Robbie, like, if you would have played 8 years at Gonzaga, I wonder how many points you would have scored.
I do agree, but they load up their non-conference schedule and then they win in the tournament. Now, you can make the argument their road is a little bit easier but they still have beaten good people.
Yeah, I also felt like he got exposed against other really good 5s. Not
He's not the greatest
exposed, but I
defender.
think, like, he had,
that's
like,
the
he-
issue. He's not a great defender. Like if there's a flaw with him, it's that he's not a rim protector, and I don't know if he's necessarily going to be the guy that you want guarding Hunter Dickinson or Armando Bacot.
Do you feel like any of these guys are? Like, do you feel like
none of them are great.
other than
None of them
Derek
are.
Lively, who's not, he's a freshman, we haven't seen him play. Armando Bacot, Oscar Shibwe, Drew Timme. How much better is the rim protection with those other two guys? It's not like they're Dikembe Mutombo compared to him.
That's why they're in college. Yeah, that's why they're in college right now. Speaking of
Right,
which, Armando
we're
Bacot, I do
talking
want to
about
give him a
college.
shout out.
We're talking about
that's what I'm
college
saying. Speaking of Armando Bacot, I do want to give him his flowers because I don't know if there's a tougher dude, right? Like I love a lot of these other bigs, but after seeing what that dude played through with the ankle in the national title game and still putting up a double-double in the first half, that dude's a warrior. I want him on my team. Any team that I put together, I also want him on this show. So we are going to go to that interview our Randolph Childress was able to get with Armando Bacot earlier this week.
Last year, you guys started out to 12-6, right? You're 3-3 in the ACC. And of your 6 losses, man, you guys got out the gate to struggle. 5 were 20-point losses. I had your next game. You guys had Virginia Tech at home. So I remember that practice was supposed to start. It was a little late.
Yeah.
You guys got out there with it. What changed?
I would say after we lost to your guys, Wake Forest, I mean, it was a tough one. And we came into that game fired up. Like, you couldn't have told me we was going to lose that game. And it was just, I mean, you know how it is at Wake Forest. I mean, they get up for that game. And the fans, like, even before the games in the stands, we could see, like, the different chants and stuff they had made for the fans to, like, shout at us. So we were, like, fired up. We like, man, we definitely ready to go in here and smack them. And then they just came out and they smacked us. And then, like, after that, we just was, like, came together and just, like, we got to draw a line after that because we just thought that was just embarrassing just to go down to Miami like that, then to respond and lose like that. But, I mean, I would say a lot of it just came from just us just changing how we played, too, because I think Coach Davis did a good job of just really refining our whole offense and just completely scrapping everything and changing during the middle of the season, but also just defensively, too. I think we just got so much better in just a short amount of time during those time periods.
Finish up 12-2. You guys go 12-2 the rest of ACC play. We know how the season finished up. Let's get back to – I want you to finish this sentence for me. North Carolina is the national champion if – Going back to last year, going back to the national championship game, North Carolina is the national championship if what? How would you finish that?
If I don't get hurt, 100%.
I agree. I'm pretty sure I already know that motivated you. I don't even need to pick on you about that.
100% though, man. It was just tough, just, you know, not being able to put out the best product that I can. I mean, I tried, but I mean, I definitely think we won that game. Even you go down to the last play and just like how I slipped, I thought I had a good angle at the basket and I thought I was going to score it, and then I just slipped. I don't even know what happened. And then they go down the next play and they get that rebound, and rebound is something we hung our hats on, especially on the defensive end. And I know a lot of that was because of me, and me not being out there. It's kind of ironic, I guess, that we lost on a rebound.
You obviously get a chance to redeem that, so we're not worried about that. Now let's talk about the rivalry. Where does you ending on the team, ending Coach K's run at Duke? Where does that rank in your history of basketball? What is that? How does that feel to be on the team? I know that rivalry. Yeah. Everyone knows it. It's probably the best rivalry in any sport, collegiate athletics. You're a part of it. You guys played the Dragons, so to speak, in that rivalry, and ending Coach K's, beating him early in the year in Cameron, and finishing it in the Final Four. How did that feel? How did that rank for you guys?
I mean, it's a crazy experience. Like, people still won't let it go. Like, we kind of at the point now where we kind of over it, but, like, people still won't let it go. And, I mean, yeah, it was very significant. It was a huge win, but, I mean, a lot of people say that the rivalry is over, but I'm, like, completely disagreeing with that because, I mean, it's so many great players and teams that have been a part of this rivalry, and I just think it's just like, I guess, kind of disrespectful to say that the rivalry's over. I think it is a new chapter that's opening with just the 2 new coaches and the new faces and just the new era of college basketball in general. I definitely think it's different, but I mean, it's definitely cool that we won because I guess it'll always get those fans, UNC fans, just, you know, can always hang that over Duke fans' heads, especially, like, let's say if they beat us a few times. Obviously, when I'm gone, not while I'm here, but you can always kind of go back to that, and I feel like that's definitely something that people are going to try to use. But, I mean, it's going to be fired up this year when we play Duke. I mean, we beat them 2 times, Final Four and Coach K's last game, so they definitely going to be coming to play. And Coach Shai, he's a great coach, and they got a great team. So,
last question. North Carolina will win the national championship this year. Tell me why.
We got the experience, and it's our destiny.
Fair enough for me.
Armando Bacot is the best. I am a big fan of him. We're going to pivot here. We're going to talk a little bit about point guards. For my money, Hummel, I'm going to you first on this one. I think that Marcus Sasser is the best point guard, the best lead guard, the best scoring guard, the best shooter. However you want to phrase it, he is the best guard in college basketball. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Well, just because I think he can score in such a variety of ways. He's got a big-time shot, and he can get it in so many different types, whether it's off the bounce, he could come off screens. With the guard situation at Houston, he's going to be able to maybe play off some of those other guys with Tremont Mark, Jamal Shedd. And those guys are really good in their own right. So I think they only help him. But to get him back, I mean, he had a terrific summer, played his way into the combine because he played so well at the G League combine. I know he was with Priority Sports rookies in Chicago, and got to spend time with some of those dudes like Keegan Murray and some of the guys they had. I just think he's a big-time player. And I think that there's also a lack of quality depth at the point guard position. The only other guy that I'd maybe even put up there is Kendrick Davis. And I think that it's kind of a question mark with his fit at Memphis. So I do think that Marcus Sasser is the best point guard in the country.
Yeah, when they're saying Kendrick Davis or Marcus Sasser, I think that my point is made, right, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, it's not overpowering by any means at the point guard position. Probably the weakest I've seen it in 30 years of covering college basketball. But that doesn't mean there aren't a lot of good ones. And the position has obviously changed where we're trying to even debate whether Marcus Sasser is a point guard. In the
I don't think he'll
days,
play much. I don't think he'll play that much
this.
point. I think Jamal Shedd's going to be their point.
Right.
That's where I was actually going to go with this.
He's not a point. He's not. He's not a point. He's more. He'll play more off the ball. To me, the guy that I might say is the one I would take because I think he does everything, and you guys can kill me for it if you want. RJ Davis. I trust him. He was so good the second half of the year, and Bacot was great all year. But the difference for me with North Carolina was RJ Davis, and he can be a true point guard. He can score if you need him to. He defends. He's a leader. He's got the intangibles. To me, for my money, if I'm trusting somebody with the ball in their hands this year, I think I'm trusting RJ Davis.
Would you take RJ Davis or Curbelo?
I was waiting for somebody to say that. Did you pick Curbelo for your All-American team this year?
Yeah. No, he's not on my team this year, but
he didn't make first team All St. John's for Jeff this year. T.O., I think it's really interesting because RJ Davis, to me, based on the public perception, is probably the most underrated player in college basketball. He didn't make the Cousy Award list. He didn't make the Jerry West Award list. I don't know who was making those damn lists. But if you don't think that RJ Davis is one of the top 40 guards in college basketball, you're not allowed to have a college basketball opinion.
I think Norlander made it. I blame Norlander.
Well, here's another issue too. It kind of goes back to what we're talking about with Sasser. Like what are point guards and two guards and you got to pigeonhole certain guys to be at certain positions, right? Like that's the problem. Like they had Caleb Love listed as a point guard. Caleb Love's not a point guard. No. North Carolina got better last season whenever they took the ball out of Caleb Love's hands, gave it to RJ and let him initiate offense and let Caleb Love play off the catch a little bit more. Now, what happens? He gets a rhythm, he gets better shots, and he hits massive shots like he did against Duke in the Final Four. I looked at it. I had RJ Davis on my list too. I think Marcus Sasser, I'll be honest, guys, spoiler alert, I didn't pick him for All-American. The reason I didn't is because he was hurt the whole back half of last year. That being said, I got three other ones that I think at least need consideration. I think Keontae George is a dude at Baylor. I think if there's one freshman that could come out and you look back in March, Robbie, I think you'll agree with it. You look back in March, you're like, man, this dude, you remember that game against Kansas where he had
LJ Cryer play that?
He's the two. Flagler will play the point. Flagler will be the point.
No, it's going to be like they had
the two there too.
It's going to be like what they had with.
That's what's so good about Baylor. That's what's so good about Baylor this year. They got three guys that can bring it up and initiate. I think when push comes to shove.
But Keontae's more off the ball. I know he's intelligent. He can make good decisions, but he's not going to be a primary ball handler.
Whenever I saw him play, he played with on the Adidas circuit. When it came down to the last 4 or 5 minutes, he's so competitive, he takes the ball out of other people's hands. Like that's going to happen. So he's your decision maker at the end of the game, and he can make things happen with the ball in his hands at the end of the game.
It's
like
going
some
to be
of these passes he makes are second and third level passes.
Yeah, it's going to be exactly like what Baylor was in the 2021 season when they won the national title. When they had, it was Jared Butler was their point guard, and Davian Mitchell was their off guard, and Macy Utigo was playing the small forward position. But it's like they had 3 guards that can all do the same thing, that can all come off of ball screens, that are all a little bit better at different aspects of it, but they all can be put into 1, 2, 3 spots, and that's why the offense is going to be able to work the way that it works. Robbie, who is?
Hold on, I got 2 more. What about? 2 more. You got Tiger Campbell at UCLA, who during UCLA's run a couple of years ago, he was their steady, everlasting presence, no matter what. And then Severe Wheeler can't shoot it at all. But look at what his numbers were offensively. If we're talking about traditional pure point guards, and that was a question, he's got to be up there. He's got to be up there.
He's good. I would not have Severe. You can't have a guy on an All-American team that you can scheme out of being.
He was third. What was he, third in the country in assists?
Yeah, he puts up great numbers. But at
Kentucky.
Wait. At the end of the year, you can make an argument this year that Severe Wheeler could be coming off the bench and Casey Wallace could be their starting point. I don't think it's going to happen, but all I'm saying is if he can't make shots and you're going to play him with Oscar and Oscar can't make shots, and we'll see if
but that goes again, like what is a point guard? What is a point guard?
He's a traditional point guard. Obviously, he's an old school point guard. But like Rob's saying, if you can't shoot the ball from 15 feet consistently, you cannot be put. And I was guilty of that with Curbelo last year, among other things, with the concussions. Shut up, Hummel. Shut up.
I love the Curbelo pick by Jeff. It was so freaking bad.
He got hurt.
He did get hurt.
I can't wait.
But here's the thing. If
I would lean towards the other 3, though.
Curbelo will come back this year.
If you're going to pick a point guard that can't shoot, right, like T.O. just did, we should probably point out that Severe Wheeler shot, what was it, 40% from 3 during SEC play, 38%? Well, Andre Curbelo was 5 for 31 from 3 as a freshman. But Goodman is like, you can't pick a point guard that can't shoot, first team All-American. I got your back, T.O., all right?
Go into the Tiger Campbell thing, and I think Tiger Campbell is a point guard. I do wonder how much point he will play because of Amari Bailey. They've talked about moving him off the ball. I'm not saying it'll be all the time, but I do think it'll be some of the time.
So here's what I think about that. You need 2 guys that can both be creators off the bounce to be able to play in college basketball. Look at over the years, the last 13 years. I think the only team that didn't have 2 actual point guards on the floor that won the national title was 2018 Villanova, and they had Jalen Brunson and a bunch of guys that could make off the bounce. So I think that brings me to my next point. If we're talking best backcourts, right? The best duo, the best 3-headed monster, however you want to phrase it, who are the best backcourts in college basketball, Robbie? Is it Baylor? Is it UNC? Is it Houston? Is it somebody that I didn't mention? Is it Miami, who I think is very underrated in this conversation? Where would you go?
I would go Carolina, just because, they play in the national title game. They bring all those guys back. I love their backcourt with Caleb Love, RJ Davis. Miami is really interesting, because I'm fascinated to see the chemistry of the team this year after the Isaiah Wong NIL deal. It seems like everything is all good. We'll see. Nigel Pack certainly he re-upped.
Exactly.
he renegotiated.
Yeah.
So then everything is good. I would put Houston right there. Baylor, I need to see it first. They're very well could be the best, but until I've seen Keontae George play a college game, because I have not seen him play in high school, it's tough for me, even though I like LJ Cryer and I like Adam Flagler, but I'm going UNC. I love their backcourt.
T.O.?
If you're going full backcourt, it's more than just the starters, right? Or are we just talking to starting guards?
However you want to do it.
All right, I'm going Baylor because of what's behind them too. You look at Carolina, who's been proven behind those 2.
They play those dudes are going to play as much as they want.
And same goes for Miami. And so I would go Baylor because you look at some of the guys they're going to bring off the bench too, like those guys can play. They're going to be able to send guys in waves. Underrated backcourt. Texas is, I think Marcus Carr will take a little bit of a step too. Texas will have a pretty good backcourt as well.
Goodman?
Yeah, I probably would go Baylor, I guess, just because Flagler's steady. I know what I'm going to get out of him. Cryer's done it. He shot at a crazy rate. And I'm with T.O. on everything with Keontae George, other than the fact that the ball will be in his hands to make decisions at the end of the games. But he's terrific. He's terrific. He's a prolific scorer. Defensively, he'll probably be a liability this year, but most freshmen are. But I love those three.
Yep.
You guys hate winning.
No, so I would go with North Carolina. I'm with you, Robbie. And the reason I say that is I think you have the perfect combination of a steady Eddie point guard that can get you 14 and 6 if you need it. Is going to shoot like 40-something% from three. That's not going to make crazy decisions. That's not going to do dumb stuff. And you also have a guy that can go out there and get you 27.5 in a Final Four game if you need him to. But, there's going to be nights where he goes 2 for 15. And I think you kind of need that like explosive guy that could take a game over if you need him to take a game over. But you also need someone that can, kind of
like Seth Trimble too, coming off the bench for them.
He's going to be good.
Yeah, I forgot about Seth. That's a good point.
He might be. You think he's going to be ready right away?
He's just got to play 10 minutes a game. That's all.
That's right. 7, 8, 9 minutes a game. He'll be good. Right. Yeah. The only thing is like, what Caleb Love are you going to get from night to night? Like,
I'm with you never know.
Hopefully for Rob's and I's sake, March Caleb Love.
Yeah.
Well, you're not. It's going to be. You're going to get March Caleb Love, and you're going to get three games of November Caleb Love. And then you get a couple games of March Caleb Love, and you get 2 more of November Caleb Love. That's it'll be a roller coaster for us, Hummel. It's going to be a roller coaster. All right. I did want to bring something up because I thought Gottlieb made a really interesting point the other night where he said foremen are the second most
Gottlieb
important.
Made an interesting.
Yeah, he said fours are the second most important. Point guards are the most important position in college basketball. Fours are the second most important position because you need a guy that can shoot. You need a guy that can be switchable. You need a guy that can be versatile. And those guys are exactly what NBA teams are looking for, which brings me to Jaime Jaquez. Is he the best, however you want to phrase it, big wing, combo forward, small, whatever you want to phrase that position, Goodman? Is he the best in that role in college basketball this year?
I mean, only because, again, you know what you're going to get from him. He's certainly not the most talented, right? I mean, Nick Smith is incredibly talented on the offensive end.
Aren't we talking about foremen?
Yeah, like, well, how did you get to Nick
I thought we were talking about wings.
Well, like big wing, like Jaime Jaquez, big wing.
You got to start reading the rundown, dog.
Or at least listen to what I say. Damn, man.
I try not to listen to.
We're talking about power forwards. Yeah, Nick Smith's awesome.
Well, I don't know how, like, I don't think Jaquez is really a 4. I mean, I know he plays some 4, but to me, I think of him more traditionally. If he can, he's a big wing. Fine. So 4 spot. Yeah, I mean, like, Jaime to me is just one of those players that, again, like, doesn't really have a position. Like, that's the beauty of him in a way, is you just throw him out there. He's a baller, right? Like, he's just a tough kid who will give you everything he's got. He did it last year. He was not at 100% or even close with the ankle injuries. And I think if he is at 100% this year, there are a few guys that are going to be as stable and solid and consistent as him. But, and I think Gottlieb said this the other night, the big question for UCLA, and in full transparency, I picked UCLA to win the whole thing. Do they have a dude? Do they have a guy that can just go get you one? Because Amari Bailey's not really that. He's not a great shooter. Tiger Campbell, he's shooting it better, but again, he's small. And now you're putting a lot of pressure on Jaime to be that guy, and he's never filled that role.
Yep.
I think you got to take him up with a grain of salt though too, because he was hurt all last year, and we had that graphic up a second ago. It was like shot 27% last year. Like, take that with a grain of salt. I think he's going to jump back up to the previous year's number if he stays healthy, and he gives you somebody who can go get you one. Like, at the end of the game, you need a bigger wing who can go get you one. Look at who wins these national championships. Last year, Kansas, Christian Brown, Ochai Agbaji, they had guys that could go get them one, right? Even if they had to be set up a little bit. I think the 1 and the 4 are probably your biggest positions, because one, you have to be able to have a coach on the floor, basically, especially at the college level. At the NBA level, everything kind of flows into things, so it's a little different. In college, you have to have a point guard to settle your guys down. And a 4, because they're so valuable because they do so much. And for Jaime Jaquez to be that guy and to be able to get you a bucket, he's got to be up there. I mean, you look at a couple of different 4 men around the country, how many are as offensively versatile as he is, especially when he's playing well and he's healthy. So I would have to agree.
he can guard different positions as well. Speaking of Jaime, T.O., you were able to catch up with Mr. Jaquez earlier this fall. So we're going to go to that interview now.
Hey guys, my name is Terrence Oglesby. We are with the Field of 68. We have a special guest today with Jaime Jaquez, preseason Field of 68 All-American, preseason Pac-12 Player of the Year. A lot of accolades for my man. First of all, thank you for coming on with me, Jaime. Second of all, congratulations on you've had a good career so far, and congratulations on all of that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We've talked a little bit to Mick Cronin. Mm-hmm. He talks about you having a bigger role in the offense this year with Johnny Juzang now leaving, with Jules Bernard now leaving. You're going to be more of a focal point. Your assists have climbed every season you've been on campus. Your points have climbed ever since you've been on campus. How do you plan to approach that? And is that something that you and Coach Cronin have talked about as the season comes near?
Yeah, I mean, starting from a freshman now, becoming to a senior, I would hope I'd only get better from that point. So, I see all those numbers go up, and it's just, I think, a testament to getting older and just trying to get better every single year. That's something that I've been trying to do every single off season. Just keep going harder and harder to try to improve my basketball skill set to the best they possibly could be.
Now, another question going with that, because you're going to have so much added responsibility, are you healthy now? Because last year you were dealing with some minor things, some injuries. You powered through them. You're tough. You're a tough guy. Are you healthy now? And what was it this past offseason that you worked on to improve your game going into this season? So two-part question.
Yeah. So I'm feeling a lot better now. I'm healthy now. Last year I had to deal with a lot of ankle injuries that were not fun. But I pushed through that, got surgery on my left one. It's feeling a lot better now. And then as far as basketball is concerned, I've just been working a lot on my jump shot. I didn't shoot the ball very well at all last year, and I know that I can do a lot better. And really just been working on my jump shot, and as far as defense is concerned, my lateral quickness, trying to be the best on-ball defender that I can be.
I like that. Looking at coming up this season, and you obviously have opportunities, being the scorer that you are, to come back. What is your prime motivation for this team this year? The Bruins have talent once again, even though the face has changed, the talent remains a constant, right? What's your motivation going into this year for both you and I guess your expectations for you and the team?
My expectations for myself and the team would have to be going on another deep run in the tournament, trying to win a national championship. I think has always been the ultimate goal and one of the reasons why I came back. And the way that we're going to do that as a team and as myself is I got to step up along with, guys like Tiger, Dave, Jalen, and really try to teach these young guys what it means to win basketball games at the college level. They're all so young. They're getting adjusted to this new system, new ideas, new concepts. And as seniors and leaders of the team, we have to be there to help coach and help teach these guys and really bring them along, because our success is going to be determined on how fast, our guys can and learn these new concepts and these new things. And it's been a fun process so far, and I'm excited. The freshmen are looking great, and we're all really excited to see what happens this year.
Well, I'm glad you alluded to that, because that was actually going to be my next question. You've got several really good freshmen, but two in particular I want to ask you about. Adam Bona, I saw him over the circuit. Big body, really athletic. What do you expect out of him, and how has he progressed?
Oh, he's tremendous, man. His motor is something that I can't talk about enough. He doesn't take a play off. He's always going after the 50-50 balls, getting on the floor, blocking shots, running back on defense. He's just an absolute freak of a big man. And I couldn't be more happy to have him on our team. And then Amari is a super athlete as well. He's a ball hawk on defense. He's a really good on-ball defender as well. And his offensive game speaks for itself. He's very crafty, very skilled, and can shoot the ball really well.
I like it. And I want to talk about your game right now. I consider you, Jaime, one of the best isolation scorers in college basketball. And that's a skill that a lot of people think they have, until you have to put pen to paper basically and really make it happen in the game. I got to ask you, where did that come from? I know you come from a family full of basketball players. Both your parents, I think, played at Concordia, right?
Yeah, Concordia.
Both your parents played at Concordia. Your sister's there on campus at UCLA now. Is that where that came from, or is it something that you've consciously gone after and worked on?
Yeah, I think it definitely comes from my family. My dad was my coach basically all the way up until high school. He always taught me to be a good scorer, you got to get to the free throw line, draw fouls, work your game inside and out. And, I kind of took that and ran with it. Watched a lot of film on guys like Kobe Bryant. He's probably my biggest inspiration. Watching him, just his work in the post and his use of the jab step and his craftiness of pump fakes and moves like that. All really I try to do to put into my game.
Jaime, thank you so much for joining us on the Field of 68. Congratulations. Best of luck on your season at UCLA. You guys have high expectation once again.
Yep.
And Jaime Jaquez will be leading the way. Back to the Field of 68. This was one of our All-Americans. We've got the other ones coming up too.
That was Jaime Jaquez. I'm expecting a big season out of him. I know Jeff is. He predicted UCLA to win the national title. He said, bet all of your money on UCLA to win the national title at Bet Rivers. All right, a couple more things in the forward spot before we unveil each of our preseason All-American teams. Goodman, I'm going to you first on this one. Outside of Jaquez, I feel like there aren't a lot of really proven guys at the forward spot, whether it's the 3 or the 4, whatever you want to call it. So who do you think is the best player outside of him in that position in college basketball this season?
Does it have to be a proven format?
No, whoever, doesn't matter. Give me some hot takes, man. I'm here for the spiciness.
Brandon Miller for me. I absolutely love the kid. Saw him at the PCM and he and Nick Smith played together. Brandon Miller to me is one of those guys. Now, again, it's going to depend on how Alabama utilizes him. Right. That's going to be incredibly important. I heard Patrick Young say it on our SEC preview that he might not fit the way Alabama plays because he is more of a mid-range shooter, but he can score off the bounce. He is incredibly skilled, incredibly smart. You can run stuff through him as a 4-man. He's got kind of a little bit of like Paul George in his game, a little bit. Like, again, they're different, obviously, but that type of player potentially down the road, more offensive minded, not as good defensively today. But I think Brandon Miller, the freshman at Alabama, is going to be their best player, and he's going to be terrific this year.
Yeah, T.O., let me ask you this.
He doesn't have the same game, but physically, if you went back and you've seen like this old grainy footage of Penny Hardaway, and then you looked at Brandon Miller, like they look the same, body type, how they move. Yeah. Obviously, different games, times have changed, all that. But Brandon Miller is really talented. He's got to certainly be up there.
Tio, let me ask you this. Brandon Miller, Dariq Whitehead, Cam Whitmore. 3 freshmen, 3 guys, all kind of that play the same position. Rank them for me.
The thing, Dariq Whitehead is more directly, he's going to be able to score right away, and he's going to have to for Duke. He's very talented. He's got a big body. He can play a role. He played at Montverde Academy with one of the best high school teams in history. So his ability to play with other players and understand spacing and all that stuff is very valuable. If I'm picking somebody to make the biggest impact, I think Cam Whitmore, because his physicality is going to make a huge impact at Villanova in year 1 of Kyle Neptune. I think he's going to make a huge impact just because of the type of player he is and how he fits in the Big East. That's going to be a big thing. But I think the most talented is Brandon Miller. I got to go with Jeff. I mean, even when he played with Nick Smith took a lot of that shine, right? Because let's just call it what it is. He had 30-something in the championship game. He wasn't passing it much. With Brandon Miller, when he has the ball in his hands a little bit more, I just think Nate Oates is going to find ways to get him in the paint and then make some decisions. How he maybe not like he did with Herb Jones a few years ago, but just get him in there, create that first collapse of the defense, and then he's going to be a really good player because he has so many tools and he's so talented. Yep. So I didn't really rank him there. I just gave you what they all did good. So I just didn't listen to what you wanted me to do at all. So,
I'm used to it. I work with Jeff every single day. T.O. knows a lot about guys that don't want to pass him much. Robbie, you know a lot about guys that play the 4 spot in college. So break down this role for me. Do you think Jaime Jaquez is the best player? Would you go with anybody else? Is there someone that we haven't mentioned yet that you think deserves a little bit of credit?
Yeah, I think Jaquez is the best not to call him necessarily a 4 to pigeonhole him because he plays the 3 plenty too. But if you're talking about that stretch 4 type position, I would go with him as the most experienced. I think, like Terrence said, he was banged up last year, shot 39% from 3 2 years ago. And I agree with T.O. saying he'll get back to that number after not shooting it as well last year with the ankle stuff. Jalen Wilson's got to be talked about at Kansas. He's a guy that has to be in that mix coming off the national championship. I agree. Cam Whitmore is a guy that is going to play really well for Villanova in the new era of Villanova basketball. I'll throw out Pete Nance. I really like Pete Nance's game. And I think he fills into Brady Manek's hole really well in that lineup. He's super skilled. He was moving better when I saw him, the little that I did this summer. Because I would say one of the critiques of Pete has been that he's just been a little rigid or stiff when you've seen him play, perhaps. I thought he was moving differently after spending some time in Chicago with some pro stuff. I'll throw Azuolas Tubelis out there too. Mm-hmm. I think he could have a monster year for Arizona. Yeah. And I'll put Timmy Allen and Jack Nunge in there too. So, I'm the knowledge of the 4 position right here, being that I played.
Did you get Chris Murray in there?
I was about to say Chris.
Murray. I'm thinking of him as a 3. I think of Chris Murray as a 3, but I think Chris Murray is going to ball this year.
T.O., first of all, you're not allowed to say anything nice about Chris Murray after you just completely dogged Keegan throughout the entire draft process. Robbie, he said that Keegan Murray was the worst pick of any draft pick.
Oh, wow. Keegan Murray, you don't have to run one play for him. You don't have to run one play for Keegan Murray. It's rim runs, it's offensive rebounds. He'll post up. He's a beast. He is a beast.
I think, was it you or Gio that made that point that everything that Keegan got was within the offense and that Chris can do all of the things.
They ran an ISO for him and that I saw him actually run for Chris in their exhibition game against Truman State the other night. But that was like the only play that I really remember them running for him. It was all in the offense. It was catch and shoot threes, and it was rim runs, post ups, and offensive rebounds.
Mm-hmm. T.O. said
wasn't I blasted for saying that he posted up?
Yeah, you were blasted for a lot of things. Probably most of which is you said that if Keegan Murray played in the SEC, he would only be Jacob Toppin.
Oh, God.
All right.
Oh, God.
Well done.
All right, let's get into our All-American teams. We're going to unveil them here because if we don't, producer Trevor is going to be so upset for making these really fancy graphics. So, T.O., I'm going to put you on the hot seat on this one. I know that you went with a little bit of a different mindset in putting these teams together. So let's see what you got, man.
I did. I am still in the thoughts of, hey, it needs to be a team. Like I can't have one guard and 5 big men. So that being said, I did throw some curveballs in there. I have Keontae George because of all the things that I said earlier. I think he is going to be fantastic all year. He's in a
You're all in on him. You might as well just go all in, right?
I'm all in on Keontae George. I think he's really, really good. And then I'm going curveball, Mike Miles, TCU. I think he is going to lead the Big 12 in scoring, and the Big 12 is the best conference in college basketball. At the 3, I'm going Jaime Jaquez. We've talked about him probably 15 minutes in the show. I don't think I need to talk about him anymore. And then I have Armando Bacot and Oscar Tshiebwe.
Hummel?
Pretty basic here. We've talked about almost every dude. I thought the picks were really cut and dry. I went Sasser, Jaime Jaquez, Drew Timme, Armando Bacot, Oscar Tshiebwe.
I have the same team. Goodman,
Sasser, Timmy Bacot, Oscar, Sasser, Nick Smith.
So Nick Smith over Jaquez. I'm curious how you guys feel about this because when I do these teams, I think you can make an argument that the top 5 players in college basketball this year are all centers. And I've seen some people, I don't want to name them because Jeff will kick me off the show, put all 5 centers on first team All-America. I don't like that. I think you can get away with saying that, like
you could do 2 guards and 3 bigs, but I think 5 centers you can't do that.
It's got to be something.
Could you do 4 bigs and 1 guard?
No,
can you get away with that?
I like 2 and 3. 2 and 3 is a good break.
Listen, I'm with you. All I'm saying is sometimes it's hard because, like this year especially, you could make probably the first time ever you can make a valid case that the 5 best players are all post players.
Mm-hmm. I just said that, so that's proof again that you don't listen to anything that I say. But I do have a question for you.
He's really driving that point home, Rob.
Talk me through Nick Smith. Talk me through Nick Smith and why you think he's going to be a first team All-American. Because I think that he's going to be very, very good. So just what is the thought process?
The upside is there, right? The upside is there. He is a 6'4", 6'5", maybe even electric combo, but I think he's more of a scoring guard. They try to sell him more as a combo who can play the point. I would much rather have him kind of like Anthony Edwards a few years ago. I felt like he was misused, having the ball in his hands and trying to play the point. To me, just have Anthony Black play the point and let Nick Smith attack, because that's when he's at his best. Let him attack, let him drive. He can finish through contact. He's athletic. He can pull up from mid-range. He can shoot threes. Like, he's not a great three-point shooter, but he's a pretty darn good three-point shooter. So I think he can score in every way you can imagine. But I worry about him. Here's what I worry about him. They have 11 new guys on their team. So I don't worry about like Nick Smith's talent. I worry more about Nick Smith being on a team with so many new dudes, freshmen, transfers, all trying to eat. And I don't know if he's going to put up like consistent numbers.
I do think,
I don't know.
I think that he's going to be on the one hand, I think it's important to note that like two of the other big name freshmen are guys that are not going to be out there hunting shots. Like Anthony Black is kind of a distributor, point guard. He plays with that mindset. Jordan Walsh is like, he's a junkyard dog. He's going to get his points off of offensive rebounds, get his stuff in transition. And like T.O. and Hummel, you guys can speak to this more than I can, but what Muss loves to do is find a mismatch and go at that mismatch over and over and over and over and over. It's a little bit of an NBA mindset where they kind of, he finds something he can exploit and he doesn't stop exploiting it until he
that was where I was going to go with it. Like, look what he did with JD Notte last year. Like in the tournament, it was ball screen, get him downhill, find different ways, and he just beats it. Like he just runs it down your throat. If he finds something to where he has the better player and he's going to be able to get him in spots, like Muss is going to keep going at that same action. It doesn't bother him a bit if one guy goes for 40 and you have a bunch of guys with 6. Like Muss is just going to continue doing that same thing. Go ahead, Rob.
No, sorry. I thought you were done there. He seared that into my brain watching Nevada. Whether it was the Twins or Jordan Caroline, those dudes were just taking turns. And whoever was balling, it was their turn to get time to get their game on. You're totally right.
Yep. All right. So we got about 8 minutes left in the show. I have a couple of questions I want to throw at you guys, just superlatives for players in college basketball this year. Goodman, I'm going to you first on this one. The toughest player in college basketball to stop this season.
I mean, this is so easy. Like, honestly, I don't know how you can have another answer than this. Because if he gets the ball, and now he's got to get the ball, but if he gets the ball, I don't care who you are. You could be Oscar, you could be Hunter, you could be anybody. But if Zach Edey gets the damn ball in the post, this shit is over. It is over. And I want to see Hummel try to guard Edey in the post just once this year in practice. I told him $500 on the line, $500 if Hummel gets out there.
I just have to go out there.
I mean, you got to go out there, though. You can't be your usual defensive self.
You got to get one stop. Just take a charge.
Yeah, got to get one
there.
stop.
No, that was
right.
part of the deal.
Chest,
there was no stops. It was just go out there and guard it. And you said it for 1,000, you do it. 1,000?
But seriously, is there any other answer that makes sense?
No.
I think, honestly, you could make the case for Sheboy or maybe even Baycott because keeping them off the glass is insane. Those guys had so many 20 rebound games and 15 rebound games last year. I agree with you, but I think that you could say Baycott or Sheboy rebounding wise as well.
I think you got to throw Baycott. I was going to say Baycott. I would throw him in there because he lives at the foul line. Yeah. I mean, his free throw attempts in ACC play were insane. And I don't have those numbers right in front of me right now, but he is a load inside. And not only that, he plays so physical that other guys are trying to keep up and they end up fouling. And he gets to the line, 7-8 times a game.
Yep. I had Zach Edey. I thought that was a Goodman put the ball in that one pretty easily. All right, T.O., I'm going to you first on this one. Who is the most explosive scorer in college basketball this year? The guy that you would be that you're most afraid to give you 35 on any given night?
There's a lot of guys, but it has to be a wing, right? That would kind of be my only thing. I think Marcus Sasser's up there. especially if he's healthy. I didn't put him on my All-American team. I realize that, but I did that because of an injury for the whole back half of the year. So he's got to be up there. San Diego State, Matt Bradley, he can score it. He's pretty good. Isaiah Wong,
I asked for one, sir. I asked for one.
And I'm getting to it. I just have a lot of runners up. You know what I'm saying? I think one of the best isolation scorers in college basketball is Isaiah Wong at Miami. Because you get him coming off a sweeping action or some kind of dribble handoff. He's so fast and strong in his lower body, and he plays with such good balance. You saw what he could do in the NCAA tournament from an isolation scoring standpoint. He's great at the end of the clock. I think you got to throw him in there.
Hummel?
I was going to say Wong, but because T.O. took him, I think that's a really good pick. I'll go Caleb Love. I think he's going to shoot enough to go for 35. So I'll say, I'll go with him. But I think that Wong is a really good pick as well.
Yep. Goodman?
To me, you got to find a guy that's the guy on their team, and they don't have enough else, right? So he's just going to be jacking every time. Brandon Murray at Georgetown. Look for a guy that's going to average 20 plus because they have no choice. And he's super talented. So I think Brandon Murray will be that guy that kind of comes out of nowhere and honestly could save Big Pat his job. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. I went with a little bit of a different approach on this one. If you know anything about the way that Andy Kennedy coaches and the way that he plays, he loves to get these guards that he can run off of different screens that are willing to shoot it from 35 feet, even if it means they shoot 33% from three and want to get up 25 to 30 shots a game. That is Jordan Jelly Walker. He averaged 20.3 points and 5 assists last season. I think he's going to see even better numbers for what is probably the best mid-major team in college basketball this season. All right, Hummel, you are the first one up on this one. I want your outside of the box player of the year prediction, and that is the guy you think is the most likely to unseat Oscar Tshiebwe, because I think we all agree Oscar Tshiebwe has to be. I mean, can you go with anybody else's preseason player of the year? I think it's got to be him.
No, if he's AP National Player of the Year last year and he's coming back to school, yep. I think, unless LeBron James is coming to college, you can't unseat him in that regard. I don't know. I'll go. Dude, I don't know. I think this is a really crappy topic.
Dauster did the rundown.
I can say any of these guys: Armando Bacot, Drew Timme, Jaime Jaquez,
well, pick Stafford. One, man. How hard is it?
All four of my other first team All-Americans could unseat.
Way to not answer the question. Goodman, go ahead.
I agree. It was a crappy topic.
Oh my God. You wouldn't have said anything if Hummel didn't. Now you're just trying to bandwagon on with Hummel. Give me one.
No, I'm deferring. Go ahead, T.O. Go first.
It's hard because the thing with Oscar is he gets all of his stuff from effort, and he's not going to play less hard because he doesn't have that in his DNA. So he's going to have a lot of the same numbers that he had this year, and then a little bit of an enhanced game. I think you're going to see a very similar season to when Tyler Hansbrough came back, and then Tyler was trying to extend his range a little bit to 17, 18 feet. Do you remember that? Robbie, we were at the same time. Whenever he decided to come back, he shot a lot of longer mid-range jumpers just to kind of prove, hey, it might be something to work with. Because of the way he plays and the efforts there, I don't see anybody taking it away from him, quite frankly, unless somebody just averages crazy numbers.
No, so I think that if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be Sasser. Because if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be a guy that can lead a team to a national championship. And I think that if you look at that Houston roster, they are good enough to be able to go out and win a national title. And if they do, he's clearly the best player. I think there's a non-zero chance we look back in March and we say, wow, how did we not predict that Houston would be the best team in college basketball? So I think Sasser is the one guy. All right, real quick. We got about a minute left.
I think if we're going way out of the box, if TCU is able to win the Big 12, Mike Miles, if they are.
One guy from each of you that is not on any preseason All-American teams that is kind of off the radar right now that you think has a chance to make a Johnny Davis, Keegan Murray kind of leap this season. Goodman, I'll go to you first on this.
Jaden Gardner, Virginia. He averaged about 15 and 6 last year. Virginia struggled. They're going to be damn good this year. Tony Bennett's had a year to work with him. So now he's familiar with Bennett's system. Tony's familiar with him. Listen, 15 and 6 in a bad year. What if he goes 18 and 7 and they win the ACC regular season title? You got to put him in the mix.
Mm-hmm. Hummel?
I already talked about him now. I'm going to Julius Tubelis. Average 14 a game, 6 rebounds, much bigger role. Had a really good season in a poor NCAA tournament. I think he's going to have a monster season. He's done on any All-American teams. I'm going with Tubelis.
I think one of his teammates is going to have a really good year. Pele Larson had an incredible summer. I think he's a guy who could take a giant step forward. He's going to be featured a little bit more, and he's kind of that swing player that can play both sides of the ball. He's an excellent defender, and I think you're going to see a little bit more offense this year. He's a guy that could sneak on.
I got 2 guys. They both happen to be teammates. They both happen to play for Creighton. I think Ryan Kalkbrenner is going to establish himself as the best defensive center in college basketball. I think we're going to be looking at him similarly to the way that we looked at Walker Kessler last year in the way that he can anchor a defense. I think that Creighton's going to be a top 5 defense in college basketball, but I also think they are a top 5 team this season because I expect Arthur Kaluma to have a massive year. I think he is probably the best NBA prospect on that roster. I expect him to shoot much better than the 27% he shot from 3 last year. And I think what we saw in the tournaments, both the Big East and the NCAA tournament, was just how good he can be this season as he kind of develops that confidence and gets used to playing at the Big East level. So guys, listen, I appreciate you being here. T.O., always good to talk to you. Hummel, always great to talk to you. Goodman, fuck off. And we will see you guys again on Monday afternoon.
Whoa.
On Monday afternoon. College basketball season is here, baby. College basketball season.
That out, Trevor. Bleep